Imagine for a moment that you have a brilliant career, recognized by everyone, with fans who applaud you and directors who always want to hire you. Now think, would you have the courage to throw all that away and pursue a completely different path with no guarantee of success? Well, that's exactly what happened to Lee Jin-wook, one of the most talked about names in the K-drama world. He could have comfortably followed the path everyone expected: heartthrob roles, romantic stories, and characters that only reinforced his image as the perfect prince of the screen. But suddenly, he made a decision no one expected: to drastically change the course of his career. And here's the most curious point. It wasn't just a character or style choice. It was a complete transformation, a turnaround that left fans and critics alike speechless. Many asked, why? What happened to make him give up something that seemed so right and so secure? And that's precisely the answer we'll uncover now. Because, behind the spotlight, there's always a truth the public doesn't see. And in Lee Jin-wook's case, that truth is surprising, even inspiring. The most fascinating thing about this story is that it doesn't just tell the life of a famous actor. It also speaks of courage, difficult choices, and the desire to not just be what others expect of you, but rather who you truly want to be. And perhaps that's why this story resonates so deeply with those who follow its trajectory. After all, who hasn't dreamed of breaking mold and following a new path, even if it seems risky? So get ready, because in the next few minutes, you'll get a behind-the-scenes look at one of the boldest decisions of Lee Jin-wook's career. A choice that changed everything and proves that sometimes taking risks can be the only way to achieve true freedom. Before we continue, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like, because what comes next will surprise you from beginning to end. When we think of Lee Jin-wook at the beginning of his career, it's impossible not to think of the classic image of a Korean drama heartthrob. He had it all: the imposing height, the charismatic gaze, and that elegant manner that seemed to have stepped out of a romance novel. It didn't take long for producers to see in him the perfect face to play Prince Charming, passionate executives, and idealized men who always made fans' hearts flutter. Every time he appeared on screen, it was as if the audience saw exactly what they wanted: a sweet, charming, and magnetic character. But what few knew was that, behind this initial brilliance, Lee Jin-wook was beginning to feel the weight of something that doesn't always show to outsiders: repetition. Yes, at first it was thrilling to play characters that captivated millions of viewers. He gained notoriety, interviews, invitations to events, and even became the face of major brands. But as the roles continued to come, something strange began to happen. They all looked very similar. Always the heartthrob, always the romantic, always the same mold. And that's where the curious detail comes in that many don't realize. Being famous and successful doesn't necessarily mean being happy. While fans applauded him and dreamed about his characters, Lee Jin-wook silently wondered, is this all there is? Will I spend the rest of my life repeating the same role, just changing the character's name and the story's setting? This unease grew like a shadow within him, even in his moments of greatest glory. Imagine yourself in his shoes, recognized, beloved by the public, but feeling trapped in a mold that doesn't let you show who you truly are. It seems contradictory, doesn't it? How could anyone feel dissatisfied at the height of their career? But that's precisely where the twist lies. This promising beginning, which seemed like a perfect dream, was actually the spark for one of the boldest decisions of the actor's life. And the most incredible thing is that this choice didn't happen overnight. It was a silent, almost imperceptible process that began at that brilliant beginning, when everything seemed to be going so well. At the height of his success, Lee Jin-wook was seen as the perfect actor for love stories. Always elegant, always charming, always playing the kind of character that seemed tailor-made for him. But here's where a curious detail begins. This image, which seemed like a gift from the acting gods, gradually became an invisible prison. As much as the public loved him this way, Lee Jin-wook knew he was becoming trapped in a label. It was as if he'd been placed inside a transparent box. From the outside, everyone admired him. Fans were thrilled. Directors said he was the perfect choice for romantic roles, and even brands wanted his image associated with perfection. But inside, he felt limited, with no room to breathe or showcase other layers of his talent. Imagine repeating, year after year, variations of the same role, the handsome, passionate man, caught up in a romantic drama. It works at first, but then it becomes predictable, suffocating. And the most impressive thing is that many artists spend their entire lives wanting precisely this: recognition, fame, and roles that guarantee security. But Lee Jin-wook wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He knew his art couldn't be limited to just being a K-drama heartthrob. Within him was an almost uncontrollable desire to try new characters, explore darker sides, and live stories that required more than just a charming look on camera. This conflict grew silently. On one side, the comfort of a consolidated career. On the other, the feeling of being trapped in something that didn't reflect his true essence. And it was precisely this internal struggle that began to shape the boldest decision of his life. Because when someone realizes they're trapped in an image that doesn't represent who they truly are, sooner or later, the time comes to break that prison. Every actor has that one role that changes everything. For Lee Jin-wook, that moment came when he was given the chance to play a character completely different from his usual. He wasn't the Prince Charming, nor the love-struck executive. He was a more complex man, burdened with heavy emotions, with deep layers that demanded much more from him than just a captivating smile. And that's when the turning point happened. During filming, even his co-stars noticed. Something had changed in him. The way he immersed himself in character, the intensity in his gaze, the strength in his lines. Everything showed that Lee Jin-wook was exploring new territory. And, for the first time, he felt he was showing the world the actor he truly wanted to be. The audience noticed too. Comments began to vary between surprise and admiration. Many fans said, "I didn't even know he had this depth." Others were shocked. "This isn't the Lee Jin-wook I knew." And that's exactly where the magic of transformation lies. When even those who had already followed his career begin to see him differently. It was on this project that he realized he didn't need to settle for comfortable roles. He could challenge himself, reinvent himself, and show he had much more to offer. That moment was like opening a door he hadn't dared to cross before. Each scene filmed was a confirmation that he no longer wanted to live trapped in that old image. It was as if, suddenly, all the pent-up frustration had been transformed into fuel for something greater. The most impressive thing is that this choice was risky. He knew he might lose fans, that some might not accept such a sudden change. But he also knew that if he didn't take the risk, he would spend the rest of his life regretting not having shown his true essence. It was at that moment that the decision to radically change course began to solidify. When Lee Jin-wook decided to take this bold step and show a new version of himself, no one was indifferent. Audiences, accustomed to the romantic heartthrob who seemed to have stepped out of a fairy tale, were surprised by a much more intense, dark, and unpredictable actor. And the fan reaction was immediate. On one side, there were those who were enchanted by the transformation. They saw courage, authenticity, and a new depth in his performances. Passionate comments began to emerge. "He's not just handsome, he's a real actor. I never imagined Lee Jin-wook could deliver something so powerful." For this group, the change not only solidified his talent, but also increased their respect for him as an artist. But, like any radical change, there was also resistance. Many fans felt uncomfortable seeing him play roles so different from what they were used to. Some even said he was losing his essence, that they should keep him in the safe space of romantic stories. Some even confessed they no longer recognized the actor they'd followed since the beginning. This division of opinion was intense, almost like a culture clash within the fandom itself. The curious thing, however, is that this mixed reaction ended up further reinforcing the impact of the turnaround. Because when an artist sparks debate, when they provoke such conflicting feelings, it's a sign that they've truly stepped out of their comfort zone and touched something real. Lee Jin-wook was no longer just the predictable heartthrob. Now, he was an actor who sparked discussion, reflection, and even controversy. And that was just the proof he needed. Seeing that his decision resonated with so many people only confirmed that he was on the right path. After all, if before people already knew exactly what to expect from him, now each new work was an unknown, and that kept everyone on their toes. The fans' reaction, a mix of love and strangeness, ended up fueling him to pursue this new path even more firmly. Change is never easy. And for Lee Jin-wook, this image transition wasn't just an artistic decision. It was almost a personal battle. While at the beginning of his career, he was constantly invited to play heartthrob roles. After his breakthrough, the invitations became rarer and often riskier. He had to say no to roles that could guarantee comfort and immediate fame, and had to wait for opportunities that truly showcased his new side as an actor. This choice, to many, seemed crazy. Conservative directors hesitated. Will the audience accept it? What if he loses everything he's built so far? Doubts were everywhere. Even some colleagues believed he was jeopardizing his own career by abandoning the safe path he'd already mastered. But Lee Jin-wook was determined. He knew that to follow the pattern was to condemn himself to being remembered as just another handsome heartthrob in the long list of K-dramas. And the challenges didn't stop there. When different roles finally arose, they demanded much more from him. They were dark, complex characters that required deep emotional and even physical depth. He had to study new acting methods, change his approach, and prepare for scenes that tested him intensely. Nothing was comfortable. Nothing was predictable. Each new role was a trial by fire. Interestingly, this difficult period ended up becoming a kind of natural filter. He began to be chosen only by directors who truly believed in his ability to go beyond appearances. And while this reduced the number of invitations, it increased the quality of the productions he appeared in. Lee Jin-wook faced criticism, uncertainty, and even public distrust. But instead of backing down, he used each obstacle as fuel to reinforce his new identity. It was as if he were telling the world, "I'd rather take risks and be remembered for my courage than live trapped in an image that doesn't represent me." And this determination began to open doors that previously seemed completely closed. When Lee Jin-wook decided to break free from the heartthrob stereotype, it seemed like he was swimming against the tide. For a while, many critics and even some audiences viewed him with suspicion, as if hoping his daring phase would only be temporary. But time, as always, proved him right. Little by little, the work that emerged after the change began to attract attention precisely for the intensity he delivered. Each new role wasn't just a performance, it was almost a declaration that he wouldn't back down. And that's when the belated recognition began to come. Specialized critics who previously saw him as just another pretty face in K-dramas began writing reviews praising his versatility. Film magazines began to highlight him as an actor capable of surprising and carrying complex productions. Even directors, who had previously been skeptical, began seeking out Lee Jin-wook precisely for what was previously seen as risky, his ability to reinvent himself. The most interesting thing is that this recognition didn't come in an immediate explosion, but gradually, steadily, and almost silently. It was as if, with each role, he was planting a seed. And, when least expected, these seeds blossomed into respect, credibility, and a new level within the industry. For fans, there was also a transformation. Those who initially found his casting strange began to understand that he was growing as an artist. Many began to say they admired his courage even more, and that they couldn't imagine another actor delivering the same depth to certain characters. This belated recognition proved a truth that applies not only to the entertainment world, but to any area of life. Sometimes you have to face uncertainty and resistance to achieve something much greater. And in Lee Jin-wook's case, this patience in waiting for the right moment made all the difference. He went from being just a popular actor to a respected performer, remembered not only for his appearance, but for the intensity he brought to each role. After so many changes, challenges, and even criticism, the big question remains: why did Lee Jin-wook decide to drastically change the direction of his career? The answer, though seemingly simple, carries enormous weight. He wanted to be free. Free from labels, predefined expectations, And above all, from the imprisonment of an image that did not show who he really was. For years, he experienced firsthand the dilemma faced by many artists: please the audience by playing the same type of role, or risk everything in pursuit of something greater. And it was precisely this quest for authenticity that led him to make the boldest decision of his life. He realized that if he continued to follow the safe path, he might amass fame and money, but he would never have the chance to showcase the true scope of his talent. This reason is surprising because, deep down, it wasn't about fame or status, but about identity. He didn't want to be remembered just as that handsome K-drama actor. He wanted to be recognized as someone capable of taking on challenging roles, of moving in unexpected ways, of delivering performances that resonated with depth. It was, above all, a matter of not living an artistic lie. And the most inspiring thing is that this decision ended up becoming an example for many other actors and even fans. After all, who hasn't felt stuck in a routine that doesn't truly represent who we are? Who hasn't been afraid to take risks because they thought they might lose everything? Jin-wook showed that while it's scary to abandon the safe path, it's precisely this courage that opens doors to greater achievements. In the end, the real reason for her change wasn't just about taking on new roles. It was about taking control of her own story, breaking down barriers, and showing that to truly live, you have to take risks. And this choice, far from being a mistake, ended up becoming the most important milestone in her career. Jin-wook's story proves that courage doesn't always mean facing great enemies or experiencing epic action scenes. Often, the greatest courage lies in defying what everyone expects of you. He could have comfortably followed the path of easy roles, predictable romances, and the perfect image he had already achieved. But he chose something much greater, taking risks in pursuit of authenticity. And look how that changed everything. From an actor labeled a heartthrob, he transformed into someone respected, admired, and even inspiring. His career shows that fame can open doors, but it's the courage to be true to yourself that keeps them open. The recognition that came after this transformation was far more valuable than any superficial applause, because it brought with it something priceless: freedom. This story isn't just about one actor, it's about all of us. Who hasn't felt the urge to radically change course, but been paralyzed by fear? Who hasn't found themselves trapped in an image or expectation that didn't match their true feelings? Jin-wook's life reminds us that, as scary as it may seem, taking this step can be exactly what we need to find ourselves again. And here's the most inspiring detail. Even with criticism, doubts, and obstacles, he didn't back down. On the contrary, he used each challenge as proof that he was on the right path. This determination is what makes him a living example that success isn't about pleasing everyone, but about being true to yourself. Now, I want to hear from you. If you were in his shoes, would you have the same courage to change everything, even at the risk of losing what you've already achieved? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this conversation will be very fruitful. Oh, and don't forget, if this video inspired you, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave a like to follow other surprising stories from the world of K-drama. After all, there's a lot of truth hidden behind the scenes that you can't miss.